Sophia's emerald signal is already active, and the moment you became aware of it, something irreversible began. This is not an announcement of what might happen later. It is a recognition of what is already unfolding. This signal does not arrive early or late. It appears only when consciousness reaches a precise point of readiness, when the internal field is coherent enough to register it. That is why this moment will not repeat. It does not need to. The signal does not cycle. It activates once, through awareness, and then reality reorganizes around that recognition. You are not here to decide whether this applies to you. You are here because alignment has already occurred. The old idea that preparation must come before activation is backwards. Activation comes first. Understanding follows. Effort follows even later, if it is needed at all. Most of the time, it is not. Sophia's emerald signal does not wait for belief or certainty. It responds to presence. And your presence here is the only confirmation required. This is what initiation actually is. Not a ritual. Not a dramatic turning point. Initiation is the quiet, unmistakable shift where consciousness realizes it has crossed a threshold without effort. There was no gate to push open. No permission to request. The signal appears when the inner state is capable of holding it. That capacity has nothing to do with worthiness and everything to do with resonance. You are not being chosen. You have matched the frequency. The reason this will not repeat is simple. Consciousness does not revisit thresholds it has already crossed. Once awareness has registered a higher level of coherence, the field updates permanently. You may forget. You may doubt. You may distract yourself. But the signal does not withdraw. It has already been integrated into the way you perceive, feel, and interpret reality. From this point forward, events will not arrange themselves the way they used to. Not because the world has changed, but because the lens through which you experience it has shifted. This is why there is no urgency in the conventional sense, yet there is absolute precision. You are not being rushed. You are being placed. Placed into a window where recognition is possible, where the internal noise has quieted just enough for the signal to register. That window closes not because time runs out, but because coherence stabilizes. Once stabilized, there is no need for repetition. The signal has done its work. Reality is already responding. Not in dramatic displays, but in subtle rearrangements. Conversations, impulses, realizations, pauses. The field moves first in ways the mind cannot immediately categorize. This is intentional. If the change were obvious, the mind would attempt to control it. Sophia's emerald signal bypasses control by working beneath it, where identity forms before thought. You are not meant to do anything with this yet. There is nothing to apply, no instruction to follow, no practice to begin. The only thing that matters right now is recognition. Recognition that this moment is not random. Recognition that something has already shifted. Recognition that you are not standing outside the process, watching it happen. You are inside it. If you are aligned with this frequency, subscribe and remain within it. The moment seeking ends is the moment movement begins. Not your movement toward desire, but desire's movement toward you. This is where the old paradigm collapses. The idea that effort creates results, that striving proves worth, that chasing brings fulfillment has always been a misunderstanding of how reality actually responds. Seeking was never the cause of manifestation. It was a symptom of misalignment. When you chase, you broadcast absence. When you strive, you confirm distance. When you search, you reinforce the assumption that what you want exists somewhere other than where you are. Reality does not respond to words or wishes. It responds to state. And the state of seeking is the state of not having. This is why effort feels exhausting and inconsistent. You are pushing against the very mechanism that could have carried you. The inversion begins when resistance drops. Resistance is not always tension. Often it looks like overthinking, planning, visualizing, repeating affirmations, or constantly checking whether something has arrived yet. These behaviors seem harmless, even productive, but they subtly declare mistrust in the present moment. They imply that now is insufficient, that alignment is incomplete. The field listens to implication more than intention. When coherence stabilizes, the signal changes. Coherence is not passivity. It is alignment between what you are, what you feel, and what you expect without effort. In coherence, there is no internal argument. No pulling forward. No bracing against time. The body relaxes. The mind quiets. Awareness settles. And in that settling, the direction reverses. Desires do not move toward action. They move toward clarity. They are drawn to states that can hold them without distortion. When your inner state no longer contradicts itself, the field recognizes stability. Stability is attractive. It is magnetic. This is why the shift feels sudden even though nothing was forced. Reality responds the moment friction is removed. This is not about wanting less. It is about wanting without reaching. There is a difference. Reaching implies distance. Allowing implies proximity. When you allow, you stop announcing need. You stop measuring progress. You stop scanning for proof. You become available rather than effortful. Availability is the condition through which things arrive. The mind often resists this inversion because it was trained to equate effort with value. But value is not generated through strain. It is revealed through alignment. You do not earn resonance. You either match it or you do not. And matching it is not something you do. It is something you stop interrupting. As coherence stabilizes, reality begins to move in subtle ways. Not as rewards, but as responses. Conversations shift. Timing adjusts. Opportunities appear without announcement. These movements are not dramatic because drama belongs to effort. Alignment is quiet. It feels almost ordinary. That is how you know it is real. This is the end of seeking. Not because you have everything, but because you are no longer positioned as lacking. From this position, desires do not need to be pursued. They recognize the signal you are emitting. They respond to the absence of resistance. They move because the path is clear. Nothing is being pulled. Nothing is being forced. The field is simply matching coherence with coherence. And in that match, the old struggle dissolves. What remains is movement without effort, arrival without chase, and a recognition that what you were seeking was never ahead of you. It was waiting for you to stop looking. Nothing in your reality changes because you act harder. It changes when you recognize what you are. This is the distinction that dissolves confusion around manifestation. Outcomes do not respond to behavior. They respond to identity. Behavior is downstream. Identity is upstream. When you attempt to change results without addressing identity, you create temporary motion without structural shift. Recognition is what changes the structure. Identity here does not mean personality, history, or self-concept. It means the level from which you are perceiving reality. Most people operate as if they are a small point inside a vast external world, trying to influence it through effort. From that position, action feels heavy, delayed, and uncertain. But that position is not accurate. It is a habit of perception, not a truth. When recognition occurs, the position reverses. You are no longer a figure inside the field. You are the field experiencing itself through a figure. This is not a philosophical idea. It is a perceptual shift. And perception is what reality mirrors. The moment you recognize yourself as consciousness rather than a character struggling within circumstances, the rules change because the reference point has changed. Outcomes do not appear as rewards for correct action. They appear as reflections of the level at which you are identifying. When identity is contracted, reality reflects contraction. When identity stabilizes into awareness itself, reality reorganizes accordingly. This is why effort can never substitute for recognition. Effort implies that something essential is missing. Recognition reveals that nothing was missing, only misidentified. This is also why so many techniques eventually stop working. They are built on the assumption that you are a separate agent who must do something to cause reality to respond. But reality is already responding. It is responding continuously, accurately, and without judgment to the signal of identity you are emitting. The question is not whether manifestation works. The question is what level of identity is being mirrored. Recognition does not feel like achievement. It feels like simplicity. There is often a quiet sense of inevitability that follows it. The need to prove, fix, or force dissolves because the internal argument has ended. When the argument ends, the signal clarifies. When the signal clarifies, outcomes reorganize without instruction. This is why recognition changes everything even though it looks like nothing happened. The mind expects effort to be visible. But the most powerful shifts are invisible because they occur at the level that generates visibility. Once identity shifts, behavior adjusts naturally, without discipline or control. You do not act differently because you decided to. You act differently because you are seeing from a different place. From this position, manifestation stops feeling like a process. It feels like feedback. Reality reflects recognition the same way a mirror reflects posture. You do not move the mirror. You move yourself. And even that movement is not effortful. It is a release of misidentification. You are not here to become something new. You are here to stop mistaking yourself for something smaller. The moment that recognition stabilizes, outcomes no longer need to be chased or managed. They appear as confirmations, not achievements. This is not because the world has become generous. It is because you are no longer asking it to be. You are recognizing yourself as the source it has always been responding to. Reality does not respond to force. It never has. It responds to frequency, to the underlying state from which perception, emotion, and expectation are emitted. Force attempts to impose change from the surface. Frequency reorganizes reality from the source. This distinction is subtle but absolute, and understanding it clarifies why effort often feels heavy while alignment feels inevitable. Sophia's emerald signal operates entirely at the level of frequency. It is not an energy you collect, summon, or build through exertion. It is a state of coherence that becomes available when the internal system stops fragmenting itself. The emerald frequency is not something added to you. It is revealed when mental noise quiets, emotional resistance softens, and awareness stabilizes into a single, consistent signal. Coherence is the key. When the mind wants one thing, the emotions fear another, and the body braces against uncertainty, the signal is distorted. Reality reflects distortion as delay, inconsistency, or friction. Not as punishment, but as accuracy. The emerald frequency emerges when these layers stop pulling in different directions. Thought aligns with feeling. Feeling aligns with expectation. Expectation aligns with presence. When alignment occurs, the signal becomes clear enough for reality to respond cleanly. This is why tuning is a more accurate word than activation. You are not switching something on. You are adjusting until interference dissolves. Much like a signal coming through static, the clarity was always available. It simply could not be received while competing frequencies were active. The emerald frequency becomes dominant not by force, but by subtraction. Less resistance. Less internal contradiction. Less effort to manage outcomes. Revealing rather than acquiring is essential here. Acquisition implies lack. It suggests that something is missing and must be obtained from outside. Revealing acknowledges that coherence was always possible, but obscured by habit. Habits of tension. Habits of control. Habits of anticipating outcomes rather than allowing them to unfold. When those habits loosen, the emerald frequency naturally rises to the surface of awareness. This frequency is not mystical in the sense of being separate from lived experience. It is practical, embodied, and observable. When coherence increases, decisions feel simpler. Timing feels more fluid. You stop pushing yourself forward and stop holding yourself back. Action still happens, but it arises from clarity rather than urgency. Movement becomes clean because it is no longer compensating for internal conflict. The emerald frequency does not demand belief. It does not require visualization, repetition, or affirmation. Those methods attempt to override incoherence rather than resolve it. This frequency responds only to alignment. When alignment is present, nothing needs to be done to convince reality. The signal is already sufficient. As coherence stabilizes, you may notice a subtle sense of steadiness. Not excitement. Not anticipation. A grounded clarity. This is not a peak state. It is a baseline shift. From this baseline, reality begins to reorganize in ways that feel natural rather than dramatic. The mind may try to attribute cause, but cause is not linear here. The response emerges because the field recognizes consistency. This is how the emerald frequency operates in consciousness. Not through effort, not through force, not through accumulation. Through tuning. Through revealing what was always present beneath interference. When coherence becomes your default state, reality no longer needs instruction. It already knows how to respond. Emotion is not a reaction to reality. It is the language through which reality receives instruction. Most people were taught to manage emotion as a consequence, something to control, suppress, or correct after events occur. But emotion is not downstream. It is upstream. It is the immediate feedback mechanism between your internal state and the field that mirrors it. Every emotional state carries directional information. Expansion signals alignment. Contraction signals misalignment. This is not moral. There are no good or bad emotions in this system. There is only feedback. When you feel ease, openness, relief, or quiet clarity, the signal you are emitting is coherent. When you feel tension, urgency, frustration, or heaviness, the signal is fragmented. Reality responds to the signal, not the story you tell about it. Expansion is not excitement alone. It can be subtle. A sense of rightness. A softening in the body. A quiet yes that does not need justification. Contraction is also subtle. It may appear as mental pressure, emotional resistance, or the impulse to control outcomes. Both are guidance. Neither should be fought. The mistake is not feeling contraction. The mistake is suppressing it or trying to override it. Suppression distorts the signal. When an emotion is pushed down, the information it carries does not disappear. It fragments. Fragmentation introduces noise. Noise confuses the field. This is why forcing positivity often produces inconsistent results. The signal becomes mixed. Words say one thing. Emotion broadcasts another. Reality responds to the broadcast, not the performance. Allowance is what restores clarity. Allowance does not mean indulging emotion or acting it out. It means letting the information pass through without resistance. When an emotion is fully allowed, it completes its message. Once the message is delivered, the emotion naturally shifts. This is not something you make happen. It happens when interference stops. Expansion does not require amplification. It requires recognition. When you notice expansion and do not cling to it, coherence stabilizes. When you notice contraction and do not judge it, resistance dissolves. Both states are temporary signals, not identities. Treating them as guidance rather than problems keeps the system clean. Reality amplifies what is consistent. If expansion is allowed, it stabilizes. If contraction is resisted, it persists. Not because reality is cruel, but because resistance is still a form of attention. The field responds to what you hold, not what you prefer. Allowance removes the holding. It clears the path. This is why emotional honesty matters more than emotional control. You cannot instruct the field accurately if you are editing the signal. Authentic emotion, even when uncomfortable, is precise. Precision is attractive to reality. It knows exactly how to respond to a clear signal. It does not know how to respond to a masked one. When emotion is understood this way, there is nothing to fix. You stop trying to manage your internal state like a problem. You begin listening to it as feedback. Expansion tells you you are aligned. Contraction tells you something is being resisted or misinterpreted. Both are useful. Neither is an enemy. As allowance becomes natural, the signal stabilizes. Coherence increases without effort. Reality does not need to be convinced. It is already responding. Emotion was never the obstacle. Misunderstanding it was. When emotion is allowed to function as instruction, alignment becomes automatic, and the field mirrors that clarity without delay. When coherence is reached, the laws do not turn on. They become visible. This is the point most explanations miss. The Hermetic principles are not switches you activate through study or belief. They are constants. They have always been operating. What changes is the clarity of the signal moving through you. When internal noise quiets, the mechanics of reality reveal themselves as precise, simultaneous, and unmistakably responsive. The law of mentalism becomes obvious first. Not as an abstract idea that mind creates reality, but as a lived observation that perception determines experience. When your inner state stabilizes, thought no longer wanders aimlessly. It aligns. An aligned thought does not need repetition. It carries weight simply because it is undivided. Reality reflects this immediately, not as fantasy, but as structure. At the same time, the law of correspondence begins to operate cleanly. Inner and outer stop feeling separate. You notice that situations mirror emotional posture, that interactions echo expectation, that circumstances reflect internal order or disorder with uncomfortable honesty. This is not punishment. It is feedback. The mirror sharpens as coherence increases. The clearer the signal, the clearer the reflection. The law of vibration is not about raising energy. It is about consistency. Every thought, emotion, and expectation emits frequency, but only the dominant, stable frequency organizes outcomes. When coherence is present, vibration stops fluctuating wildly. It steadies. Reality responds to steadiness because steadiness indicates reliability. The field organizes around what is stable, not what is loud. Polarity begins to dissolve next. Not because opposites disappear, but because they are no longer interpreted as enemies. Desire and presence stop conflicting. Expansion and contraction are seen as guidance rather than problems. This integration removes internal resistance. When resistance drops, the laws no longer appear contradictory. They converge. Mentalism, correspondence, vibration, and polarity function as one system, not separate rules. This convergence is what makes manifestation feel effortless. Not because nothing is happening, but because nothing is fighting itself. Effort was never the engine. It was compensation for fragmentation. Once coherence is reached, the system self-organizes. Reality does not need to be pushed. It needs to be matched. Importantly, this is not mystical timing. It is mechanical. Physics responds to conditions, not intention. Consciousness operates the same way. When internal conditions align, the laws express cleanly. When they do not, the response is distorted. This is why partial alignment produces inconsistent results. The laws are still working, but the signal is mixed. Seeing the laws as physics rather than philosophy removes superstition. There is no reward and no punishment. There is only response. Reality is not testing you. It is echoing you. When you stop arguing internally, the echo sharpens. When you stop forcing outcomes, the system settles. This is also why trying to selectively use the laws never works. You cannot apply one and ignore the others. They operate simultaneously. Thought, emotion, expectation, and perception are always interacting. Coherence allows them to converge. Fragmentation keeps them competing. If you want a simple confirmation that this recognition has landed, like the video now is a confirmation that this recognition has landed. Once this is seen, effort feels unnecessary because it is unnecessary. You are no longer trying to make the laws work. You are letting them be seen. And once seen clearly, they cannot be unseen. The system has always been active. Coherence simply allowed you to notice how precisely it responds. After alignment is reached, the challenge is no longer creation. It is interference. This is where stabilization becomes essential. Many people experience a moment of clarity, a sense that things are finally flowing, and then unknowingly disrupt it by trying to hold on to it. Control enters quietly. Not as force, but as monitoring, adjusting, checking, and subtly attempting to manage outcomes. This is where manifestation breaks. Control is not always obvious. It often disguises itself as responsibility, planning, or improvement. But beneath these behaviors is a lack of trust in the present moment. Control assumes that without constant oversight, things will fall apart. That assumption is itself a frequency. And reality responds to it by introducing friction, delay, or complication. Not to punish, but to reflect the interference. Allowing is often misunderstood as passivity. It is not. Allowing is alert presence without tension. It is the state of being fully aware without attempting to direct the flow. In allowing, you are engaged, responsive, and present, but not gripping the outcome. This distinction is subtle, but it determines whether coherence stabilizes or collapses. When you allow, the internal system remains aligned. Thought, emotion, and expectation stay in conversation rather than competition. When you control, they fragment. The mind tries to predict. The body braces. Emotion tightens. This fragmentation introduces noise into the signal. The field responds accurately to that noise. Flow slows. Timing becomes erratic. What was moving smoothly begins to feel forced again. Stabilization does not require effort. It requires restraint from interference. This is counterintuitive because most conditioning equates involvement with improvement. But once alignment is reached, improvement happens automatically unless it is interrupted. Allowing is not doing nothing. It is doing nothing unnecessary. Alert presence means you notice impulses to control without acting on them. You feel the urge to check, to fix, to accelerate, and you let that urge pass without suppression. Suppression would be control in another form. Allowing lets the impulse complete itself without becoming behavior. This preserves coherence. Flow is not fragile. It is resilient when left alone. What destabilizes it is not external circumstances, but internal insistence. The need to know how things will unfold, when they will arrive, or what they will look like introduces a future focus that pulls awareness out of the present. Creation does not occur in the future. It occurs now. Control tries to reach ahead of now. Allowing stays here. This is why manifestation often accelerates when you stop watching for it. Attention is powerful, but only when it is relaxed. Tense attention collapses the field. Relaxed attention sustains it. Allowing keeps attention open and responsive rather than narrow and demanding. You do not maintain flow by guarding it. You maintain flow by trusting it. Trust here is not belief. It is absence of interference. When you are not arguing with what is unfolding, the system continues to organize itself efficiently. When you intervene prematurely, you reset the process. This is where manifestation either breaks or flows. Not at the level of desire, intention, or technique, but at the level of how much you allow reality to do its part. Alignment set the conditions. Allowing sustains them. Control dissolves them. Once this is seen, stabilization becomes natural. You stop trying to manage the river and learn how to remain present as it carries you. Creation does not happen across time. It happens in the present moment, or it does not happen at all. Past and future are useful for memory and planning, but they are not creative domains. When awareness drifts into the past, it reinforces identity through repetition. When it projects into the future, it introduces anticipation and control. Both states distort the signal. Only presence selects reality. The present moment is not a slice of time between before and after. It is the only point where perception, emotion, and expectation converge into a single signal. When awareness is fully here, the signal is unified. When awareness is divided between what was and what might be, the signal fragments. Reality does not respond to fragments. It responds to coherence. Past orientation anchors identity to what has already occurred. It tells the field, this is who I am, this is how things go, this is what is possible. Even positive memories can become constraints if they are used to define the present. The field responds accurately by continuing the pattern. Not because it is fixed, but because it is being referenced. Future orientation creates a different distortion. It pulls awareness forward, away from where creation actually occurs. Anticipation introduces tension. Planning introduces control. Hope introduces waiting. These states all imply that fulfillment exists elsewhere in time. The signal becomes conditional. Reality responds by delaying, because delay is what the signal contains. Present awareness carries no implication of lack or postponement. It does not announce need. It does not rehearse history. It does not predict outcomes. It simply observes what is. From this position, the signal is clean. Thought, emotion, and perception align naturally because they are no longer spread across timelines. Selection happens here. Not as a conscious choice between options, but as an automatic alignment. When awareness is present, the system selects the path of least resistance. This is not fate. It is efficiency. The field organizes around what is most coherent now. That organization becomes what you later call a timeline. This is why attempts to create from the future rarely feel grounded. Visualization that disconnects you from the present creates fantasy, not alignment. Replaying the past to avoid mistakes creates caution, not clarity. Both approaches miss the actual mechanism. Creation does not require imagination or memory. It requires presence. Presence is not effortful. It is receptive. You are not trying to hold the moment. You are allowing yourself to fully occupy it. When you do, the need to manage outcomes dissolves because the system is already managing itself. Action arises naturally when needed. Rest arises naturally when needed. There is no conflict because awareness is not split. This does not mean ignoring the past or future. It means not living in them. You can plan without projecting. You can remember without identifying. The difference is subtle but decisive. When awareness remains here, planning becomes responsive rather than anxious. Memory becomes informative rather than defining. Reality mirrors where you are located internally. If you are located in now, reality organizes now. If you are located in then or later, reality reflects delay or repetition. This is not symbolic. It is mechanical. The present moment is the only interface the field responds to. When this is seen, effort relaxes. You stop trying to get somewhere else. You stop waiting for the right conditions. You recognize that the only condition that matters is awareness itself. From here, creation is not something you do. It is something that happens because the signal is no longer divided. Self-love is not an emotional practice. It is a structural condition. When it is missing, resonance fractures. When it is present, coherence stabilizes without effort. This is why alignment cannot be sustained through technique alone. The relationship you hold with yourself determines the integrity of the signal you emit. Most misunderstand self-love as a feeling they must generate or maintain. That misunderstanding turns it into another task, another performance. But self-love is not something you do to feel better. It is the absence of inner opposition. It is what remains when you stop treating parts of yourself as problems to be corrected. Resonance does not respond to affirmation. It responds to internal agreement. Inner rejection is subtle. It often hides behind improvement, discipline, or self-analysis. The impulse to fix yourself implies that something is fundamentally wrong. That implication fragments the signal. You may speak positively, visualize success, or act confidently, but if beneath those behaviors there is resistance toward who you are, the field receives mixed information. Reality responds to the mix, not the mask. Compassion restores coherence because it removes opposition. Compassion is not indulgence. It is not justification. It is the willingness to remain present with yourself without judgment. When judgment drops, energy stops splitting. Thought, emotion, and perception rejoin. The signal steadies. Reality recognizes steadiness immediately. This is why resonance cannot be faked. You cannot broadcast coherence while internally arguing with yourself. You cannot maintain alignment while rejecting your own experience. The field is not deceived by language or behavior. It responds to the internal relationship you are maintaining moment by moment. Self-love as law means this operates whether you agree with it or not. If you treat yourself as an obstacle, reality mirrors obstacles. If you treat yourself as insufficient, reality reflects lack. Not as punishment, but as correspondence. The mirror sharpens as awareness increases. This is why inner honesty becomes unavoidable as alignment deepens. Compassion stabilizes resonance because it allows all internal states to exist without fragmentation. When fear arises and is met with patience, the signal remains intact. When doubt appears and is not condemned, coherence holds. Suppression creates fracture. Acceptance creates integration. Integration is attractive to reality because it is efficient. This does not mean you never change or grow. Growth that emerges from self-respect is stable. Growth driven by self-rejection is volatile. One produces expansion. The other produces cycles. The field reflects the difference clearly. When self-love is structural, effort drops away naturally. You stop trying to prove worth. You stop chasing validation. You stop forcing outcomes to compensate for internal lack. From this state, action arises cleanly because it is not motivated by deficiency. It is motivated by clarity. Alignment does not ask you to become perfect. It asks you to stop being at war with yourself. When that war ends, even temporarily, the signal clarifies. Reality responds immediately because the interference is gone. You are no longer broadcasting contradiction. This is why compassion is not optional. It is not a moral ideal. It is a functional requirement. Without it, resonance splinters. With it, coherence stabilizes. And when coherence stabilizes, manifestation stops being something you try to achieve. It becomes something that reflects you accurately. Self-love is not the reward at the end of alignment. It is the condition that allows alignment to persist. When this is understood, you stop trying to generate worthiness and begin recognizing it as the natural state that emerges when opposition dissolves. Once alignment stabilizes, expansion becomes inevitable. Stabilization is the end of internal conflict. Expansion is what naturally follows when there is nothing left to resist. This is where reality begins to open laterally rather than linearly, revealing that movement is not about progressing forward, but about shifting states. What expands is not effort, but access. Timelines are not chosen the way options are selected from a list. Choice implies deliberation, preference, and comparison. Timelines respond to identity, not decision-making. Identity emits a frequency. That frequency corresponds to a version of reality already in motion. The match is automatic. There is no gap between cause and effect here, because they are the same event viewed from different angles. Most people believe they are navigating a single timeline, attempting to improve it through better choices. This belief keeps awareness focused on control and correction. In truth, multiple timelines exist simultaneously, differentiated not by circumstance, but by coherence. Each version of you already exists as a complete pattern. You do not move between them by force. You align with them by becoming them. Identity coherence is the determining factor. When your internal state is consistent, reality reflects a consistent path. When your identity fluctuates, timelines appear unstable. This instability is often misinterpreted as external chaos. It is not chaos. It is feedback. The field is responding accurately to a signal that is still resolving itself. This is why effort cannot select a timeline. Effort implies tension. Tension fractures coherence. A fractured signal cannot lock onto a stable path. The more you try to force outcomes, the more timelines blur, overlap, or delay. Allowing coherence to deepen sharpens the signal. Sharp signals produce clean transitions. Expansion does not feel like jumping. It feels like continuity. One day, circumstances simply no longer match your previous identity. Opportunities appear that would have been invisible before. Conversations happen that could not have occurred earlier. These are not rewards. They are correspondences. You are now aligned with a different pattern, and reality is responding accordingly. Importantly, this is not about becoming better. It is about becoming consistent. Identity coherence does not require improvement. It requires integration. When you stop resisting parts of yourself, the signal stabilizes. When the signal stabilizes, the field knows exactly which version of reality to reflect. There is no confusion. This also explains why trying to return to old patterns feels increasingly uncomfortable. Once coherence increases, lower frequency timelines lose traction. They do not disappear. They simply stop matching. The discomfort is not punishment. It is misalignment. The system is guiding you toward consistency, not away from it. Timeline selection is happening constantly, whether you are aware of it or not. Every moment of presence reinforces the current alignment. Every moment of internal contradiction weakens it. This is not something to manage obsessively. Awareness alone is sufficient. When you notice alignment, coherence strengthens. When you notice misalignment without judgment, it resolves. Expansion beyond stabilization means you are no longer maintaining alignment. You are moving within it. Reality becomes responsive in ways that feel almost anticipatory. Not because the future is being controlled, but because the present signal is clear. Clear signals travel far. You are not choosing a better future. You are aligning with a reality that already exists in harmony with who you are now. As identity coherence deepens, the path organizes itself. Timelines do not need to be pursued. They are entered naturally, through resonance, as effortlessly as stepping into a room that was already open. Synchronicity is not a message from outside of you. It is feedback from the system you are already participating in. Numbers, repeating patterns, chance encounters, and unlikely timing are not instructions to follow or signs to decode. They are confirmations. They appear when alignment is present and fade when it is not because something has gone wrong, but because feedback is no longer needed. When coherence stabilizes, reality begins to echo it. That echo is what you call synchronicity. It is not magic. It is correspondence made visible. The field reflects internal order through external pattern. When thought, emotion, and expectation align, reality mirrors that alignment in ways the mind can recognize. These reflections feel meaningful because they are precise, not because they are supernatural. The confusion begins when synchronicity is treated as command rather than confirmation. Many people start asking what a number means, what action to take, or what future event it predicts. This turns feedback into authority. The moment that happens, alignment is replaced by seeking. The signal fragments. Obsession replaces presence. And the clarity that produced the synchronicity in the first place begins to dissolve. Synchronicity does not tell you what to do. It tells you where you are. It is a mirror, not a map. When you see repeating numbers, patterns in conversation, or improbable timing, the only information being conveyed is this: your internal state is coherent enough to register correspondence. That is all. There is nothing hidden behind it that needs to be unlocked. This is why chasing signs weakens them. Attention becomes tense. Interpretation replaces awareness. The mind starts scanning for meaning rather than remaining present. That scanning is a subtle form of control. Control introduces noise. Noise disrupts the signal. The system responds accurately by reducing feedback. Not as punishment, but as calibration. Reading synchronicity correctly is simple. Notice it. Acknowledge it. Do not inflate it. Do not dismiss it. Let it pass. When treated this way, synchronicities continue naturally because they are not being interfered with. They remain what they are meant to be, gentle confirmations that alignment is intact. Numbers and patterns become problematic only when they are used to avoid responsibility or presence. Waiting for a sign before acting replaces clarity with superstition. The field does not guide through symbols when awareness is already available. Symbols appear when awareness is stable, not to replace it. The healthiest relationship with synchronicity is neutrality. You see it, you recognize coherence, and you return to presence. No interpretation is required. No narrative needs to be built. The feedback has already done its job. As alignment deepens, synchronicities often become less dramatic. This is not a loss. It is a sign of integration. When coherence becomes your baseline, constant confirmation is unnecessary. The system assumes stability. Feedback becomes subtler because less correction is needed. This does not mean patterns disappear entirely. They appear when useful and fade when redundant. The field is efficient. It does not repeat itself for entertainment. It responds to conditions. Understanding synchronicity this way removes dependence and restores authority. You are no longer waiting for the universe to speak to you through signs. You recognize that it has been responding to you continuously, through clarity, ease, and flow. Synchronicity is not a doorway. It is a reflection in glass. You do not step through it. You notice it, adjust if needed, and continue. When alignment is real, reality does not need to shout. A quiet confirmation is enough. There comes a point where manifestation stops feeling like an activity and starts revealing itself as a condition. This is the moment the inversion completes. You are no longer attempting to attract, influence, or direct reality. You are emitting a stable signal, and the universe is responding automatically. The being becomes the magnet, not through effort, but through coherence. Active manifesting was always a transitional phase. It existed to compensate for fragmentation. When thought, emotion, and expectation were misaligned, techniques served as temporary bridges. But once coherence stabilizes, those bridges are no longer needed. Continuing to use them after this point creates interference. It introduces effort where none is required and control where flow is already present. Magnetism is not something you generate. It is what remains when resistance is absent. When you are no longer pushing against your own state, the field recognizes stability. Stability is attractive. It signals reliability. The universe organizes itself around what is reliable, not what is forceful. This is why striving repels while presence draws. When the being becomes the magnet, reality responds in ways that feel anticipatory rather than reactive. Opportunities appear before you look for them. Conversations happen without planning. Resources align without pursuit. This is not because you are being favored. It is because the signal you are emitting is clean. The field does not need instruction when the signal is unambiguous. This is the end of active manifesting. Not because creation stops, but because interference does. You stop asking how to make things happen and start noticing how they already are. Action still occurs, but it arises from clarity rather than urgency. Movement feels natural because it is not compensating for lack. The universe is not a separate entity deciding whether to respond. It is a responsive field. It mirrors coherence the same way a surface mirrors shape. When the shape stabilizes, the reflection stabilizes. There is no negotiation involved. No reward system. No delay unless delay is being broadcast internally. This is also where trust becomes implicit rather than chosen. You are no longer telling yourself to trust the process. You are observing that the process is already functioning without your management. Trust emerges naturally when control is seen as unnecessary. The impulse to interfere weakens because it no longer serves a purpose. Being the magnet does not mean withdrawing from life. It means engaging without tension. You respond when response is required. You rest when rest is required. You move when movement is natural. There is no strategy behind it. The field meets you because you are not resisting it. At this stage, desire changes character. It is no longer a pull towards something missing. It is a recognition of what is aligning. Desire feels quieter, cleaner, and more precise. It does not demand. It indicates. And because the being is stable, those indications translate into experience without effort. If this recognition is clear, comment with the words, "I am ready," to anchor this timeline. The completion of this inversion is subtle. There is no announcement. No milestone. Just a growing sense that nothing needs to be chased anymore. Life begins to meet you where you are, not because you asked it to, but because you stopped standing in the way. This is magnetism in its true form. Not attraction through force, but response through alignment. Embodiment is where understanding stops being something you think about and starts being something you live from. Up until now, clarity has been stabilizing internally, alignment has been sustained, and magnetism has become natural. Embodiment is the point where these are no longer experiences you return to, but the baseline from which you operate. Nothing new is added here. What happens instead is integration. The union of Sophia and Thoth within consciousness is not about external figures, symbols, or archetypes guiding you. It is about the internal balance between wisdom and structure, intuition and clarity, flow and discernment. Sophia represents the intuitive intelligence that feels truth directly, without linear reasoning. Thoth represents the structuring intelligence that brings precision, order, and comprehension. When these operate separately, experience feels divided. When they integrate, perception becomes whole. Many people lean heavily into intuition without clarity, which leads to confusion, projection, or instability. Others rely entirely on structure without intuition, which produces rigidity and disconnection. Embodiment occurs when neither side dominates. Intuition informs structure. Structure supports intuition. Neither needs to override the other. They cooperate naturally when identity is coherent. This union does not feel dramatic. It feels grounded. Decisions become simpler, not because you have more information, but because internal contradiction has resolved. You no longer second-guess intuition or mistrust clarity. Both arise from the same source. When a direction feels right, it also makes sense. When something is clear, it also feels aligned. This is integration. External archetypes were always mirrors for internal functions. They were never meant to be depended on. When consciousness matures, the mirror is no longer needed. Wisdom does not come from invoking symbols. It comes from allowing internal intelligence to organize itself without interference. The union of Sophia and Thoth happens automatically when you stop outsourcing authority. This internal balance changes how you relate to knowledge. You no longer collect information to feel secure. You recognize what is relevant intuitively and articulate it clearly when needed. Learning becomes selective rather than compulsive. Expression becomes precise without being forced. Silence becomes comfortable because clarity does not require constant validation. Embodiment also changes action. You no longer act from impulse or hesitation. Action emerges when it is appropriate and dissolves when it is complete. There is no overthinking because intuition and structure agree. This agreement creates efficiency. The system no longer wastes energy debating itself. Importantly, this union does not elevate you above others. It grounds you within yourself. There is less need to convince, correct, or explain. Presence carries authority without effort. You are not performing wisdom. You are living from coherence. As this balance stabilizes, the distinction between spiritual insight and practical life dissolves. There is no switch between higher understanding and daily function. Both operate simultaneously. You can be precise without being rigid, intuitive without being vague, clear without being cold. This is what embodiment actually looks like. The union within consciousness is not something you achieve. It is what remains when fragmentation ends. When wisdom no longer floats without structure, and structure no longer constrains wisdom, the system settles. From this settled state, perception is accurate, response is timely, and experience feels unified rather than compartmentalized. This is not a new identity. It is the absence of divided identity. When that division dissolves, embodiment is complete. You are no longer navigating between knowing and doing. You are simply present as the intelligence through which both occur. Techniques exist for one reason only, to bridge fragmentation. They are not wrong, and they were never pointless, but they were never meant to be permanent. Visualization, scripting, affirmations, methods of focus and intention all serve the same function. They temporarily organize a scattered signal. Once coherence is embodied, that function is complete. Continuing to rely on technique after this point does not enhance alignment. It interferes with it. Methods assume instability. They assume the being needs assistance to hold a state. When coherence is present, this assumption becomes inaccurate. The system is already aligned. Thought, emotion, and perception are no longer pulling in different directions. Introducing a technique at this stage is like adjusting a structure that is already balanced. The adjustment creates imbalance where none existed. This is why effort naturally falls away. Not because discipline is abandoned, but because it is no longer required. You do not stop using techniques by deciding to stop. You stop because the impulse to use them dissolves. The need they addressed no longer exists. Being replaces method because being is stable. Many people struggle at this transition point because they associate techniques with safety. Letting go can feel irresponsible, as if alignment will collapse without constant reinforcement. This fear is understandable, but it is misplaced. What collapses alignment is not the absence of technique. It is the reintroduction of doubt through unnecessary control. Trust is not a belief here. It is an observation that the system is functioning without management. Being is not passive. It is precise. When coherence is embodied, responses arise naturally. Action happens when needed. Silence happens when needed. There is no strategy behind it because strategy implies anticipation. Anticipation implies future focus. Creation does not operate there. Being remains present, and from presence, the appropriate response emerges without effort. Techniques also create a subtle hierarchy where some states are seen as better than others. You try to get into the right mood, the right vibration, the right mindset. This hierarchy dissolves when coherence is embodied. There is no correct state to maintain. There is only awareness allowing what is present to resolve itself. Resolution produces alignment automatically. This is not a dismissal of learning. It is the completion of training. Training wheels are useful until balance is learned. Once balance is natural, keeping them on restricts movement. Techniques were always pointing beyond themselves. They were showing you what coherence feels like so you could recognize it without assistance. When being replaces method, manifestation no longer feels like a process. It feels like response. You notice that things align without preparation. You move without rehearsing. You speak without calculating impact. This does not make life chaotic. It makes it fluid. The system is no longer lagging behind itself. Importantly, this stage does not make you superior or detached. It makes you simpler. Less occupied with internal management, more available to life as it is. Presence becomes the organizing principle rather than intention. Intention still exists, but it is implicit, embedded in the state rather than declared through technique. Letting go of methods is not a rejection of discipline. It is the natural outcome of integration. When coherence is embodied, effort becomes redundant. What remains is not emptiness, but clarity. Not control, but responsiveness. Being does not replace method because method failed. It replaces it because its purpose has been fulfilled. This is how alignment matures. Not by accumulating more tools, but by no longer needing them. When this is recognized, there is relief rather than loss. You are no longer trying to create alignment. You are living from it. What remains now is not anticipation, but authority. The emerald signal is no longer something you are listening to, tuning into, or checking against. It is something you carry. Not as an idea, not as a belief, but as a lived identity. Permanence does not announce itself. It stabilizes quietly, and then life begins responding differently because the signal no longer fluctuates. The emerald frequency does not come and go. It does not peak and fade. Once coherence has been embodied, it becomes the reference point through which perception operates. You are no longer asking whether you are aligned. You are noticing how reality mirrors alignment continuously. This is the shift from experience to embodiment. From momentary clarity to structural consistency. Life now functions as reflection rather than test. Events are no longer interpreted as obstacles to overcome or rewards to earn. They are seen as accurate feedback. When something flows, it confirms coherence. When something resists, it reveals interference. Nothing is personal. Nothing is random. The mirror is precise because the signal is precise. This is why the signal does not need reinforcement. You do not maintain it through vigilance. You do not protect it through isolation. You live from it. And because you live from it, reality organizes itself around it. Not perfectly. Not predictably. But accurately. Always accurately. Authority here does not mean control. It means ownership. You are no longer outsourcing meaning, guidance, or validation. You recognize that the field has been responding to you all along. The difference now is that you are not contradicting yourself internally. That consistency is what gives the signal its strength. There is nothing to wait for. No final sign. No closing confirmation. The desire to wait belongs to a past identity that needed proof before trusting itself. That identity has already dissolved. What replaces it is a grounded knowing that does not require reassurance. You are not expecting life to change. You are watching it reflect what has already changed. From this point forward, the emerald signal expresses itself through how you move, how you decide, how you rest, and how you respond. It shows up in timing that feels natural, in choices that feel obvious, and in outcomes that no longer surprise you because they match your internal state. There is no drama in this. There is stability. This is not the end of creation. It is the end of searching for it. You are no longer scanning for alignment. You are not measuring progress. You are not comparing states. You are present, coherent, and responsive. Life meets that presence because it has no reason not to. The signal you carry does not make you special. It makes you consistent. And consistency is what reality organizes around. When that consistency is lived rather than practiced, the field does the rest without instruction. There is nothing more to add. Nothing more to activate. Nothing more to prepare for. The emerald signal is not ahead of you. It is not behind you. It is not something you return to. It is the lens through which you are already living. Share this with someone who needs to hear it before their timeline closes, and subscribe to remain within this frequency.